Hi everyone, this is Michele Tracy Berger, and today I'm going to read to you from my recently released sci-fi novella called Reenu-You, published by Falstaff Books. I write a bit of everything, science fiction, some fantasy, but mostly everything I write has a twinge of horror, particularly psychological horror. And this story explores the idea of a seemingly mysterious virus being transmitted through an everyday hair care product called Reenu-You. It centers on viruses, corporate conspiracy, hair, and female friendships. And we follow closely two narrators as they try to figure out what is going on. And one of them is Kat, and that's the viewpoint I'm going to read from in just a moment. And the other is Constantia. I think the only thing that you need to know is that the story itself is set in the 1990s. And I'll read from chapter 1, Kat. And she is a biracial young woman coming back to New York because she's going to pack up her deceased mother's things. Chapter 1, Kat. August 1998, the Bronx. I always thought that I'd die somewhere in the Colorado mountains in a gruesome skiing accident. I'm a skilled skier, but there's always an electrifying element of danger that makes the sport precarious as well as fun. My left knee might pop right out of the socket, severing delicate tendons, as it has done before when I try to do something too showy. And after my knee popped out, I would fall back on the snow, injuring my body, breaking my lower back, hitting a tree at about 70 miles an hour. The pine trees with their prickly arms would embrace me, and the slopes that I love would provide a picturesque burial site. If I didn't die in the mountains, I surmise that I'd die somewhere at a posh ski club, keeling over from a massive heart attack after I had outlived my usefulness as a ski instructor. At the very least, I hoped, as everyone does, that I would leave this earth wiser, a little thinner, moving right out of life's traffic into the path of something better. So far, none of my visions of death have come true. A lot's been said about the early infected. I want to tell my story because soon the virus will overtake me too. The politicians, bureaucrats, and scientists shouldn't be the only ones who get to have their say about the virus and what it did. Despite its carnage, the virus did something special for me and for 4 other women. I can remember the day that I went to buy Reenu-You. A shitty, humid New York morning greeted me in my mom's cramped apartment on Tremont Avenue in the Bronx. Neighbors across the hall had started playing Spanish reggae around 8 a.m. Unless I'm skiing, I never get out of bed before 11. Coming from the store, my backpack was crammed with things that I needed for the next few days, my last ones in the city. Fat-free cookies, unscented tampons, light bulbs, and 6 donuts from the Puerto Rican bakery around the corner. They were bow ties with thick white glazing running down the sides of the confection, pooling into the bag, the exact kind of food that I shouldn't have been eating. Like everyone else, I have a tendency to crave sweets when I'm stressed. Though my mom and I were not extremely close, packing up her apartment after her death was the hardest thing that I ever had to do in my life. It was also hard because I despised Nueva York. I'd lived in Queens and Brooklyn, was raised in the Bronx, although I hold all boroughs in equal contempt. I always feel hemmed in by the city, cut off from nature, like a cheating lover. Only my real lover is not made of ordinary bones and flesh. My paramour is fashioned from mountain peaks and snow that crunches underfoot. My mom took me horseback riding, sometimes to the Catskills, to compensate for living in urban dung. These respites as a child, however, were not frequent enough. Since she was an artist, she could see the beauty in just about anything, even eyesore crumbling brownstones, even the way big fat water bugs skittered across the floor. Strange, I know. Most importantly, in the backpack sat the bottle of Reenu-You Relaxing Natural Miracle Hair Tonic, or Reenu-You for short. Ro, my friend, had told me about it a few days after I arrived. I had met Pigtail Ro in the 3rd grade, and she was my only friend I knew from grade school who still lived in the city. When I came into the city on trips to see my mother, she got me current on the latest fashion tips, hairstyles, best places to eat, and where to go and how to be part of the hip crowd. Girl, Reenu-You makes your hair pretty, soft, and straight. I know you don't have anything like that in Aspen, Ro teased during our phone conversation a few days after my mom's funeral. To be honest, I was looking for a change, hairstyle just being one of the easiest and least complicated things to change about oneself. After 3 years together, Peter and I had just broken up. With my mother recently dead and I temporarily out of work from a major ski resort, what could I lose by trying a new hair product? My hair is a dark chestnut brown, thick and worn in a clever bob processed with a variety of chemicals. I'm always looking for new things to do with it because skiing dries out my hair. I don't really care for braids or twists, dreads, or other fancy kinds of African styles, as I already stood out on the slopes and in Aspen. We're going to get you through this, Rose said. I leaned into the warmth in her voice. You've gotten me through just about every hard thing. You probably need a break, I said. Well, my life would have been boring all these years without you. You sure you don't want me to come over and help? I can cancel my Atlanta trip, Rose said. No. I just want to get it over with. I'm almost done here, I said. I'm checking out 2 groups, a female DJ and a boy band. It really shouldn't take me long. I'll be back to see you off. Goodness knows I probably won't see you again unless I trek out to Aspen, Rose said. No, I'll come back for you, but Aspen's not so bad. Ro made a skeptical grunt. She'd only been to Aspen once. I either traveled to see her and Mom or we met somewhere in between. I wondered what life would be like without the anchor of my mom to connect me to New York. But I thought there still would be Ro. What are you doing with her bigger pieces of art? Ro asked. She arranged for Parsons to take most of her stuff, I said. She was so efficient, she made it easy on me, I said, feeling a tightening in my throat. I wish she would have told us about the cancer sooner, Rose said with a slight dip in her effervescent voice. Yeah, I said, people are the same in life and in death. An uneasy silence passed between us before Ro continued. Well, this hair tonic has been pumped up on the radio and TV for the last month or so. It's blowing up. It's in a really funky female-shaped bottle, unlike anything you've seen before. Oh, how much damage? I said with interest. It's not so cheap, but get this. It's touted as a natural relaxer. No chemicals. Cat, it smells so good you could dip your fingers in it and taste it. Reenu-You smells like honey and vanilla all mixed together. I like chocolate myself, I said absent-mindedly. We both laughed. The rash, comprising small purplish discs with a green center, started around my hairline about 2 days later. I called Ro several times to see if she could refer me to any of her doctors, but I couldn't get a hold of her. I didn't immediately make the connection between Reenu-You and the rash because my thoughts often returned to Peter as if in a perpetual spin cycle. I missed Peter. I thought hard about what Peter might be doing at any particular moment. He could be smiling at some woman, which he often did, showing off his gorgeous, all-paid-for, middle-class teeth. Peter, my red-headed ex, who left me and the skiing world for dentistry. He said that I was living like a kid in a fantasy land, also known as Aspen, and he wanted to build a real life outside of skiing. I told him that fantasy is always better than reality, and on his way out to give me back all my Everything But the Girls CDs. Thinking about him beat packing up more of my mother's apartment, her artwork, her brushes, her pieces of charcoal. What was I really supposed to do with her stuff? Between thinking about Peter, my mother, and the rash, my mood plummeted. That's all I needed to be stuck for another few days in the city while this breakout cleared up. I damn sure couldn't go back to Aspen and look for work like this. I stomped around the apartment, periodically kicking packed boxes and the few pieces of furniture left. As this display of anger did not change my mood, I did about 24 squats, which is always what I do when I'm in a deep funk. In my anxious and infectious state, I looked around the bathroom for something that would soothe my itching. The small gray and white garbage pail still overflowed with bottles of my mother's medications, but I found nothing useful there or under her tiny bathroom sink. Moving from room to room, I searched out her purses, hoping to find something. From one, a tube of hydrocortisone and a small picture slipped out onto the rug. The picture showed my family in Van Cortlandt Park. I was 7 and remember the day well. My mom, as usual, looked gorgeous, a small brown woman with eyes that turned slightly up when she smiled due to the angle of her cheekbones, and wavy hair that flowed over her shoulders. She held my hand, and we were both looking up just as she had let go of my red balloons. My father had taken the picture. When I began to cry because she let my balloons go, my mother calmly said, "The wind wanted them." In the photo, my eyebrows are raised and my hands outstretched. A slow burn came over me as I stared at the photo. When was the last time that I wasn't so mad at her? Most of the time, everything about her made me mad. Her devotion to her art made me mad. Her freedom made me mad. That she sent me to live with my dad's brother, Uncle Gene, in Vermont in my teens, rather than support me while she struggled as an artist, made me mad. I distracted myself by looking up some clinics in the area. I thought I probably just needed a stronger dose of hydrocortisone since I'm a pretty hardy girl and am rarely sick. Skiing makes your body strong. In the phone book, I found a clinic just 4 blocks away. Probably crappy, but all I needed was a little prescription-strength hydrocortisone, right? My stomach made grumbling noises and I decided on a quick lunch. I pulled a container of black bean soup from the refrigerator that a neighbor had delivered a few days ago, dumped it in a pot, and heated it up. My mother didn't own a television or computer, so I couldn't even channel surf or get on AOL to see what I could find out. I sat and ate my soup, growing increasingly annoyed. Frustrated, I slammed down my empty bowl in the sink. I couldn't help but touch the bumps on my forehead. It was freaky because the rash felt familiar, like the 1/4 of an inch long mole I have on my left leg, or the pebbled dark scar on my left hand that I got from a roller skating accident. Like it belonged there with all the other markings on my body. The rash was soft to the touch. It hadn't yet hardened into a crust. The discs, although ugly because of their mucus green center, were arranged in a pattern of 5. 5 discs with a small green center. I'd never seen anything like this before. I felt my throat. My glands weren't sore and I wasn't running a fever, but the rash itched maddeningly. What the hell was this thing? I foraged around the apartment again and opened a packed box full of my mother's hats, which I had intended on giving away. She loved them and accessorized them using her fanciful imagination. I eventually put on one of my mom's over-the-top straw hats with small vegetables twined together instead of the typical fruit. I felt silly with it on, but it was the only thing that covered my rash. That's the end of chapter 1. Thanks for listening. Again, this is first chapter from sci-fi novella Reenu-You, published by Falstaff Books. And it has a bit of everything in it: corporate conspiracy, unlikely heroines, female friendship, and a mysterious virus, as well as an epidemic. Hope you'll check it out. And again, my name's Michele Berger. Thanks so much for listening.